Intel dropped this processor into my mailbox 2 days ago, and yesterday I did not have time to do anything with it, so today is the one day that I have to give you guys some form of preliminary look at the performance specifications and otherwise what to think about this new processor that Intel is launching today, which is the 9980XE. 9980 Extreme Edition, 18 cores, 36 threads, and this is basically the successor, the replacement to the 7980XE, Intel's previous generation $2,000 18 core 36 thread processor. What's the difference with this one? I'm not sure yet. I am literally finding out this information as I read it, so I'm going to be sort of going along with that with you guys and learning as I go, so I'll be sharing that with you. And of course we have a quick unboxing to do right now. But more to the point, if you decided already for some reason that you want to spend $2,000 on this processor, what do you need to go along with it? Besides the processor itself, of course, you will need a cooling solution. These CPUs do not ship with that, so you're probably going to want to look into high-end air cooling or potentially water cooling. And then you're going to need an X299 motherboard. Fortunately, Intel has maintained backwards compatibility with X299 boards with these new processors, so all you should need is an existing X299 motherboard like the Rampage 6 Extreme here. There is a new series of X299 motherboards that are coming out from a variety of motherboard manufacturers, Gigabyte, Asus, and so on. Asus is already sending me the X299 Deluxe 2, although it didn't arrive in time for this video, but I do have the Rampage 6 Extreme set up in the Extreme Edition test bed that I did my test bedding competitions with GamersNexus and Jay's 2 cents a month and a half or 2 months ago. So my plan today is to slot this into that test bed, fire it up, and see what it's got going on. The 9980 XE.
Excellent!
The Master Liquid ML360R RGB is a new all-in-one by Cooler Master that sports a 360mm radiator, addressable RGB fans, and a low-profile dual-chamber pump. The nicely sleeved FEP tubing has a premium feel, and you can use the included RGB control unit to customize the addressable LEDs on the fans and pump, or plug directly into your motherboard. For more on the Master Liquid ML360R RGB, click the sponsor link in the video's description.
Before I get this installed for testing though, I do want to run down some of these specs and information that Intel has sent over. Again, this is all really early because I haven't had time to process this very much, but this is the actual letter that Intel is sending out to its various press partners who they have sent samples to. And here I wanted to point out, because people ask me this a lot, when I'm provided a sample by somebody like Intel, they've actually put this block of text in here specifically saying, by providing the sample, Intel in no way requests or expects you to say or do anything on behalf of Intel. Now I'm only pointing this out because I get samples sent to me pretty often, which I'm very thankful for, but I also get accused pretty often of like, oh, they sent you this sample, it's a $2,000 processor, this obviously must bias you in one way or another. I do my very best not to be biased and to give you guys unbiased and neutral, objective reviews on products like this. And hey, if we want to compare this to what AMD sent recently, I mean, this is AMD's impressive packaging for the Threadripper sample that they sent over, and I mean, come on. How is that? Look, I got a brown. Honestly, the packaging that these arrive in matters not at all, so let's get rid of this. And let's talk about some actual features of the processors. So this is directly from Intel, please bear in mind, but it's got Intel Turbo Boost Technology 2.0. We also got Turbo Boost Max Technology 3.0, and that'll allow you to take a single core or dual core performance up to 4.5 gigahertz on single or 2 threads at a time on these processors. Now bear in mind when Intel actually made this announcement back at the beginning of October, and they also announced the 9900X at the same time, they actually had a full lineup of 9000 series high-end desktop processors, the 9800X, 9820X, and so forth. The 4.5 gigahertz applies to all the CPUs except for the 9820X, which actually has a Turbo Boost Max of 4.2 gigahertz. Just wanted to point that out. But I will post a link to the Intel newsroom brief on this if you guys want to check it out and look at the full details, but we can see that the TDP is still listed at 165 watts for all processors in this family. And then we have the 9980XE at the top with 18 cores and 36 threads. Then we got a 16 core, 14 core, 12 core, 10 core, 10 core, and 8 core version of those available in this whole lineup right here. There's 44 PCI Express lanes available on the 9980XE, and then there are 24 more available via the PCH or the peripheral controller hub. And that's why they're saying effectively up to 68 platform PCIe lanes, but bear in mind if you're talking about direct connectivity for high-speed stuff like M.2 drives or graphics cards, 44 lanes is what you're working with there. Last thing to mention is price. Pricing for 1,000 of these is at $1,979. That's bulk pricing, so you're probably going to be paying $2,000 for this at retail, just like you maybe would have paid for the 7980XE if you have money falling out of your butt. Okay guys, just some initial setup going on here. I had to double check my existing test bed first off to make sure everything's still functional, and it appears to be. Also had to double check and make sure that we have an updated BIOS for the motherboard to be compatible with the new processor, and I was actually a little worried because I hadn't received any updates, but Asus let me know that version 1503, which actually came out 2 months ago, over 2 months ago, was the update to support these processors. So they have been around for a while, and the motherboard itself is okay and ready to go when it comes to slotting in the new CPU. Now here's the 3D Mark Time Spy Extreme Hall of Fame, the two-way scores that we were attempting to have a bit of an OC challenge last month with. Derbauer's still on top with his max score here. Jay and Steve's scores are still holding up quite well too. They're still in 3rd and 5th. I meanwhile have been supplanted by lots of people with scores in the 14,000s, and I'm down here at position number 18. BPS Customs Brian also surpassed me with his additional overclocking attempt with air conditioning, but I'm going to try to keep things a little bit more simpler here today, and just to give us a point of comparison, my max score with two-way 2080 Ti's and SLI was 13,861, and more specifically the CPU score was 11,097. So my simple goal for today is going to be to slot in the CPU, run Time Spy Extreme, and see at stock how close the 9980XE can get to the 7980XE. My 7980XE, of course, being delidded, it does not have liquid metal, but it does have upgraded thermal paste, and then of course we're going to be using the same cooling solution with the EK X299 monoblock that they have for the Rampage 6 Extreme, and we'll see what the results are. We have initial success with our initial first boot with the updated configuration here. So as you guys probably just saw, it was a little bit of a challenge to swap in the new CPU since I am using a monoblock. I had to remove the entire motherboard to get back behind it because there's a back plate that, well, not a back plate, but that it screws in from the back. Fortunately, with Joe's help, that wasn't too terribly difficult. And then of course we got the second Asus GeForce RTX 2080 Ti, the ROG Strix edition of that, which I've been excited, actually arrived about a week or so ago, to just install and see what two of these together can do, because I do potentially have some chances to do some overclocking with those in the future. I'm probably not going to get to that today, but for now, I've reset everything to BIOS defaults. So I'm going to restart this in normal mode, just default out of the box settings, and we'll do some initial tests to see how it's performing. So give me just a minute, I need to restart and update the drivers. Actually, one thing I am going to change in here, just letting you guys know how things are being set up, and this is by Asus's request, because this is, again, a pretty early BIOS for this new processor. They said they were pretty conservative with the settings until they get some new CPUs in and do some direct testing themselves. So the recommendation is, if I use XMP, which I do want to turn on because we do have some pretty nice memory here, we are going to also use MCE, or multi-core enhancement. This is something that is optional. It will run the CPU a bit out of spec, so it is going to run the CPU a little bit harder than you normally would, but I just want to be fully clear with everyone that I'm leaving that on. And then the recommendation I got from Asus for this setting is if I'm going to use XMP and MCE to enable SVID support as well. So those are the three changes that I'm making, and we'll go ahead and hit OK. Oh, also, since I am using XMP, DDR4 speed is set to 3868. Because this is a very nice DDR4 32 gig kit from G.Skill that they sent over for that overclocking battle, and it's still installed, so I'm not going to remove it. Alright guys, just to show you what we're working with here, I have updated the NVIDIA drivers. We're in version 416.81, and we have both of our RTX 2080 Ti's currently functioning in SLI mode. Right there, maximize 3D performance. I'm going to leave everything else at default. I've downloaded some monitoring software. This is the updated versions, but I'm getting some weird readouts here. Like, for instance, CPU-Z thinks I have a 7980XE on the processor name, but spec here is listing properly as a 9980XE. Hardware info, for some reason, it thinks I've got a Xeon 3000. This is the latest beta version 5.89-3520. IDA64 just updated though, and if we look at IDA64's CPU ID, we can see the 9980XE listed right there, as well as the rest of the specs for the hardware I have installed. We can also see here that the XMP setting has taken effect with our DRAM frequency. It's effectively about 3869 by my math, with CAS latency 18, 19, 19, 39. So our first test here is just going to be the IDA64 system stability test, which I have just kicked off. My plan is to let this run for about 10 minutes or so, and this is going to give us a few readings. One, it's going to give us a temperature reading for the CPU under a full constant load over a period of time. We'll also be able to look here at the frequencies to see what kind of max frequency we're getting across multiple cores. And then, of course, whatever that temperature creeps up to. Right now, it's not too bad at all. Per core, we're only hitting in the mid-40s or high 40s here. So again, we do have a custom liquid-cooled setup with a monoblock, so we should be getting good cooling with this CPU. But let's give it a few minutes and see if things warm up. Well, this isn't a good sign. We have a hardware failure detected, test stopped notification here. It didn't seem to throttle at all. I'm not seeing any reports of throttling or overheating when it comes to our hardware info 64 results here. It looks like the hottest we got to was 57 degrees Celsius on the CPU package. The hottest any individual core got was 52 degrees Celsius. So it's hard to say exactly what caused this. I'm gonna hit clear here and see if I can restart and give it another shot. Well, here once again we have another hardware failure detected by IDA64. I am a little bit baffled as to why this is happening because I'm not doing anything special with the CPU. In fact, if we look at hardware info over here, we can see that we've only hit just over 4.5 gigahertz as we would expect. The fastest we've seen as far as a frequency on a single core is about 4.58 gigahertz here on core number 9. And when it was running with all cores engaged, it was only running at about 2.5 to 2.8 gigahertz, which is pretty low. That's what it's supposed to do when it's running across all 18 cores and 36 threads under a stress test environment like I just put it under. But I'm sort of at a loss as to what else might be going wrong here. With this last test, I unchecked the memory stress test, and I was hoping to indicate there that like maybe it's just that memory XMP overclock value that I put in there. This is some pretty high speed memory, and you're not guaranteed that you're going to be able to run your memory at that speed with any given processor. Beyond that though, I'm nowhere near close to thermal throttle limits. 54 degrees Celsius was the hottest any single core got. The CPU package temperature got up to 59. Even looking here at my CPU package power, 171 watts is the maximum draw. That's only 6 watts more than the rated TDP of this CPU, which is 165 watts. So I don't think I'm running out of spec. What to do next though? I think I'm gonna stop trying to run really fast memory. Alright guys, so I reset. I have installed a G.Skill Flare X kit of memory now, which is universally compatible. It's actually made for Ryzen, but it has Samsung B-Die actually ICs on there. So it's a very compatible kit. Also running 3200 speed, cast latency 14, which is a nice, I think, balanced speed. It's a faster kit, but it's not crazy fast like that 3800 speed kit that I had originally tried to install. Now, just to be clear, I'm not at all trying to say that like this kit or this faster memory kit isn't going to work with this CPU. There's a ton of other stuff I could probably go in there to go and tweak settings and try to get it to work, because 3866 is an overclock speed when it comes to the memory that's compatible with this platform. But I'm more focused on getting the CPU up and running so I can run at least a few tests for you guys. And again, I'm really short on time, so the IDA64 test has now been running for just over 7 minutes. And here we can see CPU speeds, frequency, 2.8 gigahertz is what it's going to run at across all cores. And then you might have 1 or 2 cores pop up to 3.3 gigahertz. Again, this is all default out of the box speeds that you get. Only thing we've done is plugged in the XMP value for the memory. And then we can see maximum we're hitting 4.5 gigahertz, which is what we were told is the maximum turbo boost speed. So that lines up as well. When it comes to temperatures, per core temperature, the hottest we saw is 53 degrees Celsius on a single core. So that's not bad at all. Again, we're running with a custom liquid cooler and everything, so we would expect pretty good temperatures here. Package power didn't even hit the 165 watt max here, but CPU package temp maxed out at 58 degrees Celsius. So perfectly adequate temperatures. I imagine those would ramp up pretty quickly if we dove into some overclocking with this, because that's what happens with the 7980XE, but we're probably not going to get quite that far today. One other thing I wanted to point out is that my previous version of Hardware Info 64 actually didn't update for some reason. So we've got the updated newest beta version, and now we have properly listed the i9-9980XE there. So let's jump over to some more tests. I'm going to run Cinebench. I just want to run Cinebench. All right, guys, we have some results for Cinebench at least. We're using the multi-threaded test with all 18 cores and 36 threads active. Score was 3756. If you want to compare that to the 7980XE at stock, 3399. So about 3400. Score jumped about 350 points. Not too bad there. When it comes to single core performance, the 7980XE will do about 192 points in Cinebench single core mode. We jumped up 5 points to 197. So not a bad increase there as well. Of course, that still is a pretty decent step behind the 9900K, which has the fastest single core performance right now, and that one will score about 220 points in this test. Next test, of course, is Times by Extreme. 3D Mark DirectX 12 test. This test is just finishing up. Again, just running this once due to lack of time. And there's our result of 12,090. This is, of course, significantly below the scores that I was doing when I was doing the overclock testing because we are not overclocked. But we can at least still get a representation of the CPU score here, which is 8,668. And that is pretty far behind the overclocked 7980XE scores I was getting because I was running the 7980XE at just about 5 gigahertz across all cores in the final bit of testing that I did there. So here are the results from that max test that I ran before, since it was on this same system with the 7980XE, score of 13,861. And here, my CPU score was, it's kind of small here, but 11,097. So that's what I was getting overclocked, the same number of cores and threads in the same architecture and the same manufacturing process, just running at a much higher frequency. And as you were maybe able to see as I was running through the previous tests, when you're talking about running across all cores at default with this CPU, you're going to be running at about 2.8 gigahertz, which is not that fast when it comes to overall frequency, but it does keep the temperatures down. So of course, ramping that up with some overclocking is going to increase the temperatures. We are seeing single core speeds though of maximum of 4.5 gigahertz. I thought it was interesting that as we were running Cinebench, it was actually bouncing around a little bit more than I would have expected. I would have expected to see one core always pegged at 4.5 gigahertz, but we were seeing 4.2 and then 4.3 and then 4.4. So turbo tables are something that Intel has been played very close to their chest. They're not very open about what causes the CPU to ramp up to a certain frequency at a specific time. So one last test that I ran here, guys, and that is Times by non-extreme edition because I'm pretty much out of time. But I did run Times by, so that's associated somehow. But point being, I have two 2080 Ti's and SLI going on right now, so the graphics score is pretty impressive at 24,555. I can't compare that to my initial test with the 7980XE though, because I was only running one 1080 Ti. But the CPU score is a valid comparison. We got 11,886. Compare that to the physics score in this same test with the 7980XE, which was 11,070. And we can see we have about an 800 point jump, which is a nice indication of the benefits you get from the 9980XE running at a higher frequency out of the box than the 7980XE. Now my big question about this is going to be, realistically speaking, how much of an upgrade is this from the 7980XE? It's the same price. It looks like, because we're also working with the same microarchitecture, the same process technology, 14 nanometer, at the same frequencies, I would expect these two CPUs to run at exactly the same speeds and get pretty much the exact same test results. It is a question to be asked how much further the 9980XE might be able to overclock compared to the 7980XE. Unfortunately, I haven't had time to delve into that today, but perhaps something to look at in the future. So guys, if you have any ideas for stuff that I should do further testing with this test bed and the ridiculous amount of hardware that's installed, please leave those suggestions down in the comment section down below, and I'll read them, and perhaps I will do that in the future. Also, there are probably other people who have 9980XEs who are releasing reviews on them right now, so I'm going to check those out, get some people with some more thorough benchmarking material, and post links to those in the description too, so check those out if you have a chance. While you're down there, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button and of course subscribe for more videos coming at you very soon from Paul's Hardware. Thank you guys so much again for watching this one, and we'll see you next time.